I don't know. Welcome back, everybody, to another thrilling and head-scratching episode of my life, and also First Ring Daily.
Yep.
Um, yep. Let's just wrap it up there. Because, Paul, if we died, we could also say we got iOS swayed. Well, it's terrible, wasn't
Interesting
it?
transition. Yeah, so, it's funny. So what you're alluding to is that Microsoft just revealed, as they often do in a forum post, that they are retiring a mobile app, in this case, Sway for iOS. It originally came out on iPhone, and then they made an iPad version as well. I had to kind of go. I distinctly remember being shown this app for the first time at Microsoft's field office in San Francisco, and we were probably there for like a build event, but it was kind of happened offsite or whatever. And that would have been 4 years ago, by the way. So it would have been like 4 years ago this fall. But yeah, Sway is kind of interesting. It's kind of like the new Microsoft, right? The mobile app, mobile service version of Microsoft versus traditional Microsoft, which has things like PowerPoint. And it kind of solves the same problem. You want to present some information to other people, but it does it in a new way, which in this case means, free web hosting, multimedia, whatever. And the crucial feature in a way is the ability to remix the Sway, right? Where you literally click a button and it rearranges all your stuff into a different order, different layout, different presentation. And so I guess the two questions, well, one question and then one statement I'll make about this is, whether this means that Sway is on the way out. Although the original, solution was web-based and even on mobile, they never made an Android version of the app. You can access Sway and can make Sways and edit Sways on mobile. And they're saying that that's how they're going to do things going forward. So it's possible that this is if not a progressive web app, then at least a PWA style solution where this one thing will work everywhere. So that's kind of interesting. But I just mentioned the remix feature, that I guess it was a couple of years ago, maybe it was a year and a half ago, when they announced Story Remix at Build in Seattle and then never delivered it. And then late in the summer, they said, actually, we are going to deliver it, but now it's going to be a feature of the Photos app. And it is that functionality, which did come from Sway and is from the same team, I guess, will kind of live on in this purely visual way, right? Where you can remix a story. I don't know what we call these things. The names get a little goofy, but anyway, the point is, even if it dies, I guess, the functionality in many ways will live on because it's in Windows 10, sort of.
Yeah, it just doesn't sound good for Sway, personally speaking.
Yeah, I feel like it never got a lot of play. Just going to make Sway rhyming words all day now. Yeah, it's probably not super popular. I mean, and this is the thing, when you go from a kind of a monolithic Office suite perspective on this stuff, where you just pile on features, which you're still doing, to the traditional Office apps. And then you kind of look at this mobile first, cloud first world that Microsoft envisioned, and now they call it something else, but it's the same thing. It's almost like the way Unix apps used to be on the command line, or like mobile apps are today, where what you typically see is like one small thing that does one thing. And Sway was interesting. I mean, it is interesting. I mean, it's cool, and I think people who like my dad does this. So like he'll use PowerPoint to put photos into it and then show them to people. For some reason, that's what clicks in his head. And I think, because he's mental, as evidenced by the house.
At least we know where you get it from.
Yeah. Right. I am absolutely the combined failings of my parents. But
that apple did not fall far from the tree.
No, his entire was rotten before it hit the ground. Sway is an attempt by Microsoft to make something new, and this doesn't mean it's failed. But I do think this does kind of point to an issue that Microsoft does have of relevancy in this world. I mean, I don't think a lot of people, when they're sharing things online, even think of Microsoft these days, And if you have kind of textual information that you want to share with others, unless you're really old school, you might use a Google Docs, Google, whatever they call those things. Type of program,
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to share photos, I mean, my God, you're on Google Photos, you're somewhere else. You're not Flickr or whatever it might be. So yeah, it's not their fault. It's a cool app. I mean, so I don't know if this means it's over. I kind of hope not.
Yeah, there's a lot more words about Sway than I had up my sleeve.
Yeah, I don't even know where that came from.
Yeah,
A little bit of introspection there. Well, I mean, I always thought it was a cool app. I mean,
yeah.
It's one of those things like there are so many things in our industry where and I think you would experience this too, where you kind of look at it, you're like, that's really cool. I will probably never use that thing,
Mm-hmm.
and and you kind of feel bad about it, but you just don't really have a reason to do it. Microsoft at one point had kind of challenged me, when you come back from a trip or something, you should make a sway about it. And I know Mary Jo tried to do that a couple of times. And yeah, it's cool, but I don't really have a need to make such a thing. Like when I want to share photos with people, I will put them on Instagram if I think they're okay for anyone to see because it's public. Or if it's a little more private, has family stuff going on, I'll put it on Facebook because that's where I'm connected with my friends and family.
Yep.
And I just think those platforms are more relevant to people today than yet another way to make a PowerPoint style presentation.
Yep.
Education is a good market for it. I mean, I'm sure they saw success there. I don't know.
Yeah. Anyways, moving on because that's enough about Sway.
Oh, sorry.
Because Paul, I don't hurt myself enough. I've been dabbling with this. I'm gonna give 1Password a pretty serious go here.
1Password, the password storing solution.
Yeah,
Okay.
I've been using LastPass off and on, and LastPass just kind of got in the way a lot of the times. I know people are going to write and say, "Oh, you were doing it wrong," and I probably was.
You're doing it right. It does get in the way, and this came up on Twitter, right? Because I
Yep.
think I jumped into part of this conversation. So why 1Pass?
So my biggest issue with passwords is obviously their passwords and their whatever. On my desktop computer, they're fine, but it's when I'm using it on my phone that it becomes a pain in the ass because for whatever reason, my passwords don't sync very well from Chrome to desktop to mobile. It just doesn't work very well. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a user error, highly possible. Maybe I just should put them all in a Sway and share them that way. But
That way you'll guarantee no one will ever see them.
yeah,
Too
wow.
soon? I'm sorry.
But 1Password's gotten a lot of praise, and it also works with, I'm assuming, my next phone, which we'll talk about your next phone maybe here in a minute, which will be the iPhone X2 or whatever the hell they're calling it, X Pro something. That thing works with Face ID on that and just kind of magically works. But it helps logging into apps because what I'm realizing, Paul, is so I pay most of the bills in our house, and I actually just pay them on my phone now, which is kind of crazy. I just log into the app, I pay the bill, and I log out of the app.
It's amazing. I just I went to the doctor. We were just talking about this. I hadn't been to a physical in a long time.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I've been really impressed by here is the quality of the healthcare and the system they have here and everything. But there's an app, and at every step along the way, because there's a physical and then there are these follow-up tests you have. Like I have blood tests, and I'm going to have not an echo cut, like a kind of like a heart. I'm going to get on a treadmill and do that kind of stuff. I have to have like a prostate exam, which I'm super excited about because I'm over 50. And anyway, it's all electronic and it is all done through an app. And I'm out in the world. Like I left my first doctor's appointment and they texted me through the app to remind me to schedule the follow-up things. And then when I did, I got a message saying that I was booked and here's the thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like this complete system. It's kind of European. It's nice.
Well, that's what happens when you don't go to the doctor for a decade.
I know. Today, the woman was like, "You have not gotten your blood tested in a while," and I'm like, "Well, I went to the doctor in February last year." She's like, "Yeah, but you haven't done the full run up, in a long time." And I'm like, "All right, well, take the quart or whatever you need. We'll do it now." So if I get a little woozy, I do have this little, I don't know if I can, the stupid thing on my arm.
Oh. So here's some fun information that people probably don't care about. So when I passed a kidney stone last week, because that's always just a fun experience. And long story short, I just jaunt down to the local emergency clinic. They make sure you have a stone. They give you some good stuff, but they do exactly what you have on your arm. And as this lady's doing this, I said, I will pay you $35 right now to shave my arm where you're going to attach that adhesive. please.
That is amazing.
And they didn't do it.
They didn't do it
because you know what's coming. You've got to take that thing off and have fun.
Oh, I also had a shot. Oh, I don't know if I mentioned this to you. So a year ago, February, you and I went to the doctor and got vaccinated because we were going to go to Africa. And you had that horrific reaction. I don't know if you remember it. I'll just, just in case you forgot. And it scuttled our trip. But part of the, I think I got other vaccinations. I haven't found the, I know the form's around here. It's yellow. I remember it and I've seen it, but I didn't find it in time for the doctor. But in addition to the hepatitis A vaccine, which I think was the big one and probably the one that screwed you up, there were some other vaccinations that I just, were kind of optional. I was like, look, I'm going to Africa. I want to do all of it, whatever. But you were supposed to do a 6-month follow-up to the Hep A vaccination. So she said yesterday, I guess it was Monday, she said, if you had a Hep A, the first one, you didn't do the follow-up, right? And I said, no, because, we never actually went to Africa. And I kind of dropped off the face of the earth. So she said, I can do it now and it will still work. And so I did. So she jammed this like horse needle in my shoulder.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I bled all over my shirt. And then I woke up, I guess it would have been Tuesday, and I on my bare shoulder, I could see there was like a dark thing. I thought it was a slug. Like that was my reaction to it. Like, so I kind of looked over and I was like, die. I jumped out of bed, and I was like, oh, it's a Band-Aid. But yeah, that thing came off like it was glued on with super glue. So that was fun.
Yeah, but anyway, so 1Password. Giving that a try. We will see how this goes.
That's what I wanted to ask you about 1Password was you use iOS.
Yes.
So I vaguely remember, but I know it's a fact on Android that this kind of nice thing you get on browsers where they pass through the passwords all the time is now working in apps too. Mm-hmm. And Google, it's particularly good because you use the Chrome web browser. So if I go to, the health thing I just talked about, if I logged in first on the browser, which I did, save the password, it will actually pass through to the app. Maybe that's not a great example because something with the privacy implications of a health app, you still have to sign in or whatever. Yeah. But banking apps, any app, it doesn't matter. Whatever the app is, like Duolingo or whatever. And that's not the reason, but it's a great reason to use just the built-in password system in Chrome. So how does that work on iOS? Because it must. I sort of remember that it has this feature, right? The in-app password fill.
Yeah, I mean, you can do that. The benefit of using like 1Password is that it will do that as well, but it'll just pull from the 1Password app, and so then it would use your stupid face to log you in, and then all that good stuff. I don't know. The one thing that I like about using 1Password or a third party for that matter is that it makes switching browsers a hell of a lot easier. Because that's the number one problem is they'll jump over to Edge and be like, I can't remember my password, but I know it's auto-saved in Chrome, so you jump back.
So I never ended up writing about that, but one of the things I meant to do and only did a little bit of when I was in Sweden was test different browsers, and that's a big part of the trouble there. And you can, depending on the browser, and it's especially good when you're coming from Chrome, usually sync your passwords over to the new browser. But I've had very sporadic results with that, and especially in Edge, I found for some reason it doesn't always stick. Like you tell it you want to pull it all over. It pulls, you can see the bookmarks are there. And then you go to a site and you click on it and you wait for it to kind of log you in, and it never does. And that's a big pain point, It is.
And that's what I'm hoping to resolve here. Because much like my contacts, which are just a jumbled mess of madness, I want to try to figure out and see if I can avoid that with passwords, which seems like it's easier. The one nice thing about 1Password is that you can actually export your passwords from Chrome into the app. So that helps.
And I assume it does complex password generation type stuff. I always LastPass was always one of those things that's easy to recommend because it works really well. But I think the one trick there is the mobile experience, especially in iOS. Apple makes these things a little difficult, but it's a little ponderous. And once Google added the kind of app password, pass through to apps, like it just became so seamless. It's kind of surprising when it doesn't work, on Android. If you go into a new app or you just installed an app you've already used in the past, like when it doesn't autofill the password, you kind of like, wait, what? Like I have to look this up, you know?
Yeah.
It does work pretty well.
Yep. And then rounding out the house here, Paul. This is a Russian blog. Somehow got a hold of some Pixel 3 XLs that were left behind or fell off a truck.
Yep.
I'm not going to question where their sources come from, but you can see this is a phone. It comes with the Pixel Bud things. This is like device where.
So I wonder if those are full-blown Pixel Buds with the language translation features, or if those are just their new version of earbuds. I don't believe, I should know because I've owned 8 of them, but I don't think the previous Pixels came with any kind of earbuds. I could be wrong about that. I don't know.
Yeah, but so this is what it looks like. I mean, this is like the 5th time it's leaked. It's going to get announced in about 7 weeks. So congrats, Google. I guess you can just cancel that event.
Look at that Frankenstein forehead. Just terrible.
Yeah, and then
the bottom doesn't bug me too much, although I feel like that could be half as big as it is. The one benefit you have to have something there. It makes it better. Well, you don't have to, but what it makes it good for is the stereo speaker experience, right? Yeah. So I don't mind. I really don't mind the small bezel thing. That one, it's like the notch and the bezel are both ginormous on that phone. It's kind of
a thing.
So
yeah. Actually, there were some basic specs. They're going to do a full review of this thing because why not? It's Snapdragon 845 processor, no big deal or no surprises there. And then 2960 by 1440 on the display resolution, so pretty high res. And then they had some sample shots from the camera, and as you would expect, they look pretty good.
Yeah. I'm so up in the air about this phone. I mean, I'm probably just going to do it, but I don't know if you saw my thing about consumer cellular. But what I did was I took my bill from the previous 4 months on Project Fi and I compared it to what it would look like on consumer cellular, using the same amount of data. And consumer cellular was always cheaper. T-Mobile service has been good. I switched to this phone temporarily. I've got the new phone number. When I walk around the neighborhood, I've been testing download speeds. Like I went on these doctor's appointments. I actually had both phones in the car, and I did like a fast.com, crick just to see what they look like. It's identical. They're clearly hitting the same network. So far it's been great. So, the issue for me is manyfold, but the international thing, obviously, consumer cellular has like a negative international experience. Like you just want to make sure this thing is not on. But other than that, I mean, the price is amazing. It's on T-Mobile, which is going to be good or bad, depending on what you need is or your experience is there. But the pricing and the transparency is fantastic. And that might the point of that is that might get me off of the Pixel thing, assuming I can find a phone with a really good camera that, if only Apple made one. Oh, well.
Yeah, maybe you can make a sway of your photos to compare them.
Yeah, maybe.
Yep. You got anything else for today, Paul?
No, I guess I think I'm done with most of my medical tests.
I didn't want to hear anything else. So, all right, that wraps it up for today, folks, and we'll get you right back here next time.
Wow.